Hey, everyone. We're waiting for Nancy Pelosi to speak any minute here now, but there are some funny phone calls going on. Let's just listen in while we wait for Nancy Pelosi. If you're joining later, just fast forward to when Nancy Pelosi talks, unless you want to hear the funny phone calls.
To move legislation.
What was the last bill that they just passed? And millions went to other countries?
I'm just answering your question of why it didn't happen before the legislative roadblocks here.
Here's my point. We passed millions and millions, billions to other countries during a so-called pandemic, while American people are either dying and out of work and our kids are screwed when it comes to school. Now, you want our opinions? Let us talk. The whole point is that this whole situation is screwed. And yeah, it's going to help to a point, but it's not going to help in the long run because cost is going to be raised.
That's Evelyn in Indiana. This is Brian.
So while we're waiting for Nancy Pelosi here, we're going to listen to these calls because this lady was particularly heated, which I started a little bit into her being heated, but she's complaining about how the media is race baiting and how the packages are too small, how we should lower taxes instead. And of course brought up that, hey, billions of dollars went to foreign nations. How come that money didn't go to us? Which remember, I did a video on the channel just while we're waiting for Nancy Pelosi here to come up. I did a video on the channel showing if we took all of the $44 billion that go to foreign nations and we put them into stimulus checks for the entire year, that is every foreign nation got zero, we would all get an extra $177. It's surprisingly small when I put it into that perspective. Let's keep listening.
Career and then be punished for being successful. And I feel like as a single male with no kids that I'm being punished when it comes to tax season, where people who have made poor decisions and decided not to go to college and have 5 kids are getting gigantic tax breaks.
That's Brian in Maryland. This is Wiley out of Aurora, Colorado, unemployed. How long have you been unemployed?
Hey.
Oh, I think that.
Hey, Wiley, how long have you been unemployed?
Yeah, my name is Wally, not Wiley.
Hi.
Okay. People get so fussy on the show. I love it. But anyway, Nancy Pelosi will be up in a minute now.
Time because I'm in cancer recovery, but still trying to believe God for my healing, which he promised he would do for me any day now. So how are you this morning?
I'm doing all right, Wally. So is this something, what you're hearing about this plan, something that you would be able to support, or are there parts of it you would support?
I can't support Joe Biden. I especially don't like the part where they invoke the name of Brahmaputra in the hall.
All right. That's Wally this morning. Let's go to Chris.
This guy just cuts him off because the guy's not making any sense.
Thank you very much for taking my call. I just wanted to add a few thoughts. If you could please just give me a moment. I think the number one news story that's been completely blocked by the media since this pandemic began is what the Federal Reserve has done to save the stock market. They pumped $5 trillion into these Wall Street banks, the CARES package.
I mean, this guy's not wrong.
Currently put all this money into the Treasury, which is Steve Mnuchin. He's got $500 billion in the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which is purposely used to prop up the stock market.
No.
80% of the people in this country do not have a significant portion of the stock market. All this CARES money has gone to the stock market. You heard that guy talking about Bitcoin before, and I know it. I watch the stock market every day. This is the biggest bubble since 2000. It's
I love these calls so much while we're waiting for Pelosi.
Is talking about all this trillions upon trillions of money that has gone directly to the Wall Street banks, and they're using it to goose the stock market. John, I mean, how do you have the biggest pandemic
While that guy keeps ranting, I mean, he's not wrong. A lot of PPP money, a lot of housing forbearance money. Sure, some of it's going to help people, get over that bridge, so to speak, or build that bridge. But yeah, a lot's going right into the stunk market. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi supposedly just a few minutes away, so we'll just keep listening to these rants in the meantime.
Reported over the last 7 months, the Federal Reserve is backstopping the stock market, not just backstopping it, but dropping helicopter money on it. And Nancy Pelosi has admitted it on the House floor. 9 out of 10 economists say the Federal Reserve is one of the sole reasons for income inequality in this country. We've got serious issues with our monetary policy.
Christian, you mentioned the unemployment situation in this country. We mentioned the weekly unemployment reports yesterday, and they're making the front pages of the national papers today. The New York Times noting that though more than half of the 22 million jobs lost last spring have been regained, a new surge of infections has prompted shutdowns and layoffs that have hit the leisure and hospitality industries especially hard. Dealing a setback to that recovery, the latest evidence came yesterday when the Labor Department reported that initial claims for state unemployment.
Okay, while he talks about unemployment, I just want to respond a little bit. Yeah, look, it's definitely true that monetary policy, like low interest rates, definitely helps wealthier people and businesses before it trickles down to everyone else. And then that's sort of unfortunately the nature of the Fed compared to fiscal governance, which would be Congress. And yeah, Congress has been woefully behind in stimulus. So this guy's not wrong, even though he's ranting a lot about the Fed. That is how it works.
Food to people, and we do it at least.
Oh, we got someone else. All right, let's see what they say while we wait for Nancy here.
Time to pick up the food. But the point that I was trying to get hold of you all week, because I had my granddaughter here. She had to go back to Virginia. So she left me a 5-page letter to give the highlights about the incident that happened at the Capitol.
Well, Mary, we don't have time for a 5-page letter. Can you sum it up real quick?
I know that. I wasn't going to read all. I'm just going to give you the highlight part explaining. I'm not going to mention that. I want you to have a pencil and paper. I'm going to give you the name. She wants you to have these guests on, and that will kind of put a light on what happened.
These calls are so funny.
I'll take your guest suggestions. Can you run through them real quick? Go ahead.
Okay. The title of one book, Rising Out of...
All right, this lady's going to go off reading off titles here. In the meantime, while we wait for Nancy Pelosi, because I figure rather than waiting and staring at a blank screen for 15 minutes, since she's usually running like 15 minutes late, we may as well listen to some funny phone calls in the meantime. But it's kind of entertaining to see the different perspectives people have. I mean, you get angry people on both sides, like they should have done bigger stimulus checks. This is a joke. This is too small. And then you get people who are like, this is so desperately needed. I'm so happy for Biden. It's great.
I'm going to go into the highlights about it. But
she's still going on about her highlights. It's hilarious. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi again. Let's see here. Sometimes she even gives us another little update just to say she's on her way. This was scheduled for 11:30 as usual for her weekly conference. So we'll see how it goes. But yep, she did reiterate that she's on her way. So we'll see her soon.
It's works better when it's a back and forth here, and we can respond to you. So thanks so much for the call. Thanks for your daughter for watching and for her suggestions. Want to come back to this topic though of this 1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that the president-elect proposed yesterday.
I should call in.
17th Congress, a very closely divided Congress. This plan likely to be an early test of his ability to move legislation to work across the aisle as he has promised to do. And we've been breaking down that legislation throughout the morning in this first hour of the Washington Journal. This is Charles out of Columbia, South Carolina, a small business owner. Charles, go ahead.
Hey, John. Morning. I wanted to ask you a question, and I've tried to get through most of the week. I've called over the last couple of years, once a month, maybe once every couple of months, and I think I've been pretty reasonable with my comments, with my questions. But but lately, and leading up to the election, I've got 2 different phone numbers. The other number I call in on, it's happened 5 times where the screeners...
And live now to Capitol Hill to hear from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi at her weekly briefing.
All right, this is what we're waiting for.
While we celebrate and observe Martin Luther King Day Monday, today is actually Reverend Martin Luther King's birthday. And as we observe it in this extraordinary time, it's important to remember his words, all of them so appropriate, one time or another. Today, I remember him saying, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension. It is the presence of justice." I particularly am drawn to that phrase because one of my favorites that I have in my office is Pope Paul VI. He said, "If you want peace, work for justice." The connection is very clear. Justice is called for as we address the act of insurrection that was perpetrated against the Capitol complex last week. Right now, our managers are solemnly and prayerfully preparing for the trial, which they will take to the Senate. At the same time, we are in transition. With a COVID relief package, President-elect Biden announced last night he is delivering on what he said when he was elected. Help is on the way. His plan makes big, bold, urgent action building on some of our Democratic initiatives in the last Congress, including an increase in direct payments to $2,000, vaccine distribution and testing support in a fair and equitable way, addressing the disparities in access, additional aid for small businesses, funding for state and local governments to protect our heroes' jobs, extension of unemployment benefits, help for renters, for food insecure people, and for our children. As the last jobs report of the Trump administration shows, the need could not be more urgent. Moody Analytics says, this morning, they say that this package, the rescue and recovery package put forth by Joe Biden last night, this package will take us to full employment by 2021, one full year earlier than it would occur without it. 2021 versus 2022, one full year earlier. In just 5 days, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States. Following the attack last week on the Capitol complex, there's been unprecedented mobilization of security in the Capitol. I want to express gratitude to our Capitol Police, to the National Guard who are present here to protect our democracy. They have shown great courage. I'm very proud of them, and I was honored to be able to extend gratitude to them in person on behalf of the Congress. We must subject this whole complex, though, to scrutiny in light of what happened and the fact that the inauguration is coming. To that end, I have asked retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore to lead an immediate review of security infrastructure, interagency processes, and command and control.
I hope she answers some questions about stimulus.
With experience dealing with crises. As a former Vice Director for Operations, J3, with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, his focus was military support to civilian authorities. And he has experience with the National Capital Region's security. House leadership has worked with General Honore, seen up close and personal his excellent leadership at the time of Katrina. Particularly Mr. Kyburn was the head of our Katrina task force. So he and I and others know full well how fortunate we are that the general has accepted as willing to do this. Members are moving forward with strong oversight from committees, of course, to have after-action review. There is strong interest in the Congress in a 9/11 type commission, an outside outside commission to conduct that after action review. In the meantime, I'm very grateful to General Honore for taking on this responsibility. I find this to be a very emotional time. I said to the members, we're very passionate to our reaction to this assault on our democracy, on this temple to democracy. We're very passionate about our reaction, but we must be very dispassionate in how we make decisions to go forward for security, security, security. As I see many of the films and the incitement of it all by the President of the United States, but as you see the film, one figure, so many disgusting images, but one figure of a man in a shirt with Auschwitz on it.
The camp.
Auschwitz. Work equals freedom to Auschwitz. This is in this January, 1 year ago. I had the privilege of bringing a delegation in January to Yad Vashem, the Museum of the Holocaust in Israel, to join heads of state. I came as the head of this Congress to observe the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. On the way to Israel, I brought the delegation to Auschwitz and Birkenau.
Oh.
Probably one of the most transformative national security visits that we have made. All of our travel outside the country is about our national security.
It's a field trip.
And so was that. To see the dehumanizing of people that was perpetrated there was so overwhelming. To see this punk with that shirt on and his anti-Semitism that he has bragged about to be part of a white supremacist raid on this Capitol requires us to have an after-action review.
She's chewing this guy out. Good for her.
Who are part of organizing it and incentivizing it. In the meantime, we're grateful to General Honore for making some recommendations to us on how we can keep our members safe, our staff safe, the people who make the building function, our custodians and the rest, who had to clean up after this insurrectionist mob. But security, we take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, our democracy. And that is what we will do. And we will protect all of those who are here to honor their oath of office. Questions? Yes, ma'am?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can you tell us a couple things on scheduling? Is there any update on when we might send the article of impeachment to the Senate? And secondly, can you tell us how quickly the House might take up President-elect Joe Biden's recovery package?
Well, let me start with that. We're very pleased with what the Vice President put forth last night. I'm eagerly awaiting some of the particulars of the vaccine proposal that will come out this afternoon, because this is a matter of complete urgency. As the Vice President said last night, this administration, the Trump administration, handled the distribution of the vaccine in a very disappointing way. He used stronger language. But now we have to move on and do it in the right way, and that will require resources, which will require legislation. How it will be done effectively, we'll know more about. I have some idea about it because we've made suggestions in that regard. But I think that the message of last night and later today from the Vice President will be a message of hope to encourage people to, again, when they are it's appropriate for them to receive the vaccine to do so. But as was said, as will be said, it's not just about the vaccine. It's about testing and distancing and all the rest as we go forward so that we can crush the virus, which is what we must do. Crush the virus so we can open our schools and our businesses, honor our heroes who are on the front line of this, our healthcare workers, our police and fire, first responders, transportation, sanitation, food workers, our teachers, and put money in the pockets of the American people so that the lives and the livelihood of the American people are addressed. So we're hoping that we can work in a bipartisan way as we go forward. In terms of the timing, as I mentioned, 1 week ago, on January 6th, there was an act of insurrection perpetrated on the Capitol of the United States, incentivized by the President of the United States. 1 week later, Wednesday to Wednesday, that president was impeached in a bipartisan way by the House of Representatives. So urgent was the matter. They're now working on taking this to trial, and you'll be the first to know when we announce that we're going over there. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, so a number of House Democrats, you've mentioned a couple of investigations that are going to be going on since January 6th, but a number of House Democrats have signed a letter to Sergeant-at-Arms and Capitol Police asking them to look into GOP members who may have brought tours through the Capitol on January 5th. What would you like to see done in that investigation? Is there a timeline or any action that may be taken towards members who did bring public groups?
More stimulus questions. Come on. We're talking about tours now.
We have to talk about truth and trust. In order to serve here with each other, we must trust that people have respect for their oath of office, respect for this institution. We must trust each other, respecting the people who sent us here. We must also have the truth, and that will be looked into. If in fact it is found that members of Congress were accomplices to this insurrection, if they aided and abetted the crime, there may have to be actions taken beyond the Congress and in terms of prosecution for that. Yes, sir.
We all are seeing the extraordinary security measures now in place here on the Capitol and really throughout much of the district. I'm just wondering your level of comfort about next week's inauguration.
Let me just say, and thank you for the question. As a member of the JSIC, the committee that prepares for the inauguration, for a long time now, weeks, it has been determined that we would have a very small inauguration because of COVID. That in order to have the distancing and the rest on the platform and then some people down below, it would be necessary to limit it. I don't know if they have publicly released the numbers, I won't, but a very small number of people, a tiny percentage of the people participated before. Most disappointing because obviously we're excited about nominating a new president of the United States, but not at the risk of people's health and well-being and indeed their lives. So this is always going to be small. Now with the insurrection of last week, it is necessitated by security to have more security, but it hasn't changed the nature of the swearing in. I think it's important for people to know that. This is not a concession to the terrorist. It is a recognition of the danger of COVID. Again, I'm in close touch with, I will be again for like the third time in 2 days with the Secretary of the Army, spoke with the head of the Secret Service last night. We all want to be sure that the requests that are made by the Capitol Police are being honored by those who are in a position to meet the needs. again, it depends on the intelligence, and we have to have more security than the intelligence might warrant. I think in this case, redundancy may be necessary. Not too much, but enough. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
First off, the Republicans are saying that as far as the metal detectors are concerned, that the danger on January 6th came from the outside, not the inside. And secondly, as far as the speaker's lobby is concerned, totally different issue. When can we expect that to be open for us? And will it be when the pandemic ends? And when do you see that happening as far as
it won't be 1 minute before it is safe to do so from a COVID and a security standpoint, or 1 minute later than that. Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, while Representative Ryan's subcommittee will be investigating the Capitol Police.
I'm sorry?
Well, Representative Ryan's subcommittee will be investigating the Capitol Police.
Oh, Ryan.
Right.
For benefit of the legislative branch of the Appropriations Committee, yes.
At the bare minimum, what would you like to see in reforms of the U.S. Capitol Police, especially in light of allegations from members of the caucus of institutional racism within the police?
I don't. Why are they asking these questions?
And the insurrection. What reforms would you like to see?
Well, I think the investigation is central. That has to come first. But there will be, in addition to Representative Mr. Chairman Ryan's Ledge Branch Committee, we have Homeland Security Committee. We have issues that relate to intelligence from Judiciary and Intelligence Committee. We have the Armed Services Committee. So there'll be a full, the committees will be doing their oversight in many different ways. And of course, the Appropriations Committee and the Oversight Committee have overarching responsibility. But again, the investigation will tell us what we need to know to have truth so that we can trust the system that we have here.
She said the same thing like 5 times now. Please, reporters, ask a different question.
Sad. Imagine like 10 days ago, as I said, we really lost our innocence in this because we always prepare to protect and defend from all enemies, foreign. But the Constitution also says, and domestic. And now we have to protect ourselves from enemies, domestic. How close within? The investigation will let us know.
I said, could you withhold the article indefinitely? Are you considering withholding the article indefinitely?
Stupid. She only gives these people like 10 minutes for questions, and they ask the stupidest questions over and over again. It's like one thing if you ask it once, but then they ask it over and over again. It's like, come on, she's already answered the same thing like 4 times. Stupid reporting. Anyway, okay, so here's what we got. It's all right. So here's just basically a summary on all this. A lot of people are pissed that this package is not big enough. The stimulus package is not big enough. Then you've got a lot of people who are pissed that the package is too big. And this is going to be a problem because Joe Biden is trying to play a middleman. And it's interesting because Joe Biden doesn't really have to play middleman right now. Joe Biden has the ability, as long as he caters his bill towards the reconciliation process, he can push his bill through the reconciliation process, slam dunk a big frickin' stimulus bill, and get it done with Democratic power. But instead, right now, Joe Biden is interested in getting the $15 minimum wage in. And there are suggestions right now that because Joe Biden is trying to push through the $15 an hour minimum wage, which might not be passable through the budget reconciliation process because there were some restrictions there, the entire stimulus package may end up getting held up in these negotiations. We just heard Nancy Pelosi say that Joe Biden is delivering on what he said, that help is on the way. It's big and bold, $2,000 payments. We already know about the vaccine distribution money. Pelosi is very excited about the vaccine distribution money. Biden will be speaking later, and he will reveal his vaccine proposal, which maybe all these proposals will get merged together as sort of one nice bundle bill. Nancy Pelosi says that this package will take us to full employment by 2021 instead of 2022, which is good. Bloomberg, and I'm adding this, Bloomberg reported this morning that if we pass this package, we should see somewhere between a 1.7 to 2.5-ish% boost to our economy, percentage point boost to our economy, which is actually pretty big in 2021. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi did, spend some time calling the person with the Camp Auschwitz shirt, and rightfully so, a punk, and kind of, again, reminisced quite a bit on security at the Capitol and the inauguration. Basically, things will be investigated. And once they make decisions on changes, well, then we'll know about them. That's not such a big deal. When it came time for Nancy Pelosi to speak on timing for the next stimulus package, she basically said that she's hopeful that we could get something soon. She has no freaking clue. To me, this is a sign that Nancy Pelosi also has nothing in writing yet from Biden, other than maybe like a little punch list put on a little napkin. Like, there doesn't appear to be an actual bill here. There doesn't even appear to be a PowerPoint slideshow presentation like we had with the Problem Solvers Caucus, where there's like a slide deck where you could go through and see what's in it. This is why so many details are missing right now. Like, who's going to get the $1,400 stimulus checks? Is it the same people who got the $600? Like, does that mean people making $200,000 are going to get it? Or are we going to a different scale? We don't have any of these answers yet. Nancy Pelosi didn't provide many here because, honestly, I feel like she's also clueless. I feel like she also doesn't know, which is a little bit of a bummer because it sort of implies that we might not see this stimulus package as soon as we think. It seems like it's going to be leaning much more towards that middle to end of March passing period, which is very frustrating given that Joe Biden mentioned he would want to basically slam dunk this right away. Keep this in mind, the package came in at $1.9 trillion, and you've already got people like Joe Manchin saying, I don't know if I want to go above $1 trillion. So you got some real big issues here. The $15 increase, that's going to help a lot of workers. I mean, I'd be jumping up and down as a worker if I was working at Jamba Juice, making $8, $9 an hour, and I was going to 15. That'd be amazing. But at the same time, you got the managers in the back going, how am I going to pay for this? So a lot, obviously, to be determined here. Didn't really get anything from. We got a little bit of some notes from Nancy Pelosi, but a little frustrating. The lack of communication we're getting. I guess I had higher expectations that we would get. Okay, hey, Democrats are in control now. They have a unified party. They don't have to wait for Mitch McConnell. They could just Nancy Pelosi could go, hey, Biden, I'm gonna give a press conference on Stimmy this morning. I expect to have questions about this. Can you give me your insights? And then she could tell us, oh yeah, I spoke with Biden this morning. He thinks this or whatever. We didn't get any of that. So anywho, that's what we got for today. I got to go do the private course member live stream now on stocks and real